Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a fascinating journey into Earth's wildly diverse living environments. We're going to look at a brilliant breakdown of exactly where life exists on our planet, how on Earth it manages to survive there, and why nature is just so incredibly specific. Whether you're flying high up in the sky, swimming deep down in the ocean, or digging miles underground, life always seems to find a way. But as you'll see, it always plays by a very strict set of rules.
To get us started, I want you to think about some, rather bizarre survival questions. Like, why exactly can't a fish survive on land? And on a slightly creepier note, why do some creatures live their entire existence exclusively on or even inside other living beings? Yes, including you. Well, spoiler alert, it all comes down to the incredible science of habitats.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, the basics of survival. Number 2, Earth's 4 main habitats. Number 3, the power of adaptation. 4, some absolutely fascinating survival facts. And finally, number 5, one interconnected living system. All right, starting off with Section 1, the basics of survival. What exactly is a habitat?
So a habitat is so much more than just a pin on a map or, a physical location. By definition, a habitat is the specific place where an organism lives and gets absolutely everything it needs to survive. But here's the catch, and this is absolutely crucial. Every single habitat comes with its own totally unique set of conditions and extreme challenges. Think about it. A desert is completely different from a swamp, which is entirely different from a high forest canopy, right?
But no matter how strange or extreme that environment is, every single habitat must provide these 7 fundamental requirements for an organism to actually call it home. They need water, air, food, light, warmth, protection from the elements or predators, and, crucially, a place to reproduce. If an environment is missing even one of these critical elements for a specific species, that species simply cannot survive there. It's literally nature's ultimate survival checklist. Moving on to Section 2. Earth's 4 main habitats. Let's take a quick tour through the distinct environments that categorize the wild diversity of our planet.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Earth's environments largely fall into 4 distinct worlds, and every single one demands extreme biological trade-offs. Take aquatic habitats, for example. The low oxygen and intense pressure there mean creatures absolutely have to evolve gills and streamlined bodies. Then you've got terrestrial and aerial environments. These challenge life with harsh light and the constant pull of gravity, so things like lungs and strong skeletons are a must. Down below, in the dense soil habitat, navigating the dark requires specialized digging muscles and sensitive antennae. And finally, there's the bizarre organismal habitat. This is where creatures live directly inside or on other living things, utilizing super tiny sizes and rapid reproduction just to outpace their host's immune system. Wild, right?
Which brings us to Section 3. The power of adaptation. If life is so resilient, why can't organisms just live everywhere? Well, as we're seeing, nature is incredibly specific. Each habitat demands entirely different rules for survival. We're talking different temperatures, water amounts, light levels, and oxygen content. Because of this, organisms are perfectly tailored to the exact conditions where they live. And this brilliantly illustrates that point. A fish cannot live long without water because its gills are adapted only to extract oxygen from liquid. On the flip side, consider a mole. A mole has exceptionally poor eyesight. Why? Well, because it lives underground, in total darkness. It doesn't need perfect 20/20 vision. What it really needs are tools to dig. So these physical changes aren't just random flukes. No, they are highly calculated survival mechanisms. These adaptations directly help organisms to survive, to find food, to grow, reproduce, and ultimately to pass on their offspring in their specific environment. Basically, if a creature doesn't adapt to the specific rules of its habitat, its genetic line ends. It's as simple as that. In nature, physical adaptation literally equals biological success. All right, Section 4, fascinating survival facts. Let's look at some of nature's most extreme engineered solutions. Take the whale, for instance. Here is this massive, incredible ocean dweller, perfectly suited for aquatic life with its fins and blubber, yet it carries this terrestrial biological legacy. It still relies on surface air to breathe. It's just an incredible contradiction of nature, thriving right out there in the deep blue.
Then, consider the humble earthworm. While most creatures simply adapt to the environment they find themselves in, earthworms actually alter and improve their own habitat. By constantly digging and consuming organic matter, they make the soil loose and fertile. They are essentially terraforming their own home just to make it more livable for themselves. How cool is that?
Now look up at the aerial habitat and you see the absolute structural genius of birds. To conquer the sky and fight the heavy, constant pull of gravity, birds have adapted remarkably light, often completely hollow bones. This incredible internal weight reduction is exactly what allows them to fly so easily. And then, back on land, in some of the absolute driest, harshest terrestrial environments on Earth, we have the camel. The camel solves the severe lack of environmental water with a seriously clever internal storage system. They can survive for incredibly long periods without drinking a single drop, all thanks to the nutrient and fat reserves stored right there in their bodies. It's a true game changer for desert survival. Section 5. One interconnected living system. Let's move to this and see how this all builds as we zoom out from those micro details. It's really easy to think of these habitats as just isolated little boxes, right? Like the aquatic creatures stay in the water, the moles stay down in the dirt, and the birds just stay up in the sky. But when we finally look at the grand scale of nature, we realize that these systems are deeply, deeply, and intrinsically linked together. It's like a giant puzzle. So the crucial point is this: nature is one massive, living, breathing system. All of these habitats are connected. When there are changes in one habitat, say a rise in temperature in an aquatic habitat or a sudden loss of fertility in the soil habitat, well, it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. A shift in the ocean or the earth literally ripples out, affecting all the other habitats and all the living things within them. Which brings us to the stark, somewhat urgent message at the very foundation of today's source material: protect nature. Preserve it, and we preserve life on our planet. Because habitats provide the exact, unchangeable requirements for survival, protecting these unique environments is the literal equivalent of protecting life itself. You can't have one without the other. I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. We've seen how perfectly adapted and reliant creatures are on their specific homes, and we've seen how every single habitat relies on the others. So, if all habitats are completely connected, what happens to the whole delicate system when just one of them is destroyed? Thanks for joining me on this explainer today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.